Hey guys, and welcome to the Karima podcast where we talk business, finance, entrepreneurship, and real estate. I have a very special guest today, Brett Heman, and he is the director of the Chamber of Commerce in Monett. He's a real estate investor and he has several different projects he's working on, and so it's an honor to have him on our show today.
Yeah, I'm excited to be here, Jason. Thank you for inviting me on.
Yeah. So like I said, you have several projects you're working on. You have the Co-work Collective. You have several rentals. How many rental properties do you have right now?
We're hitting about 20.
Wow, that's awesome.
Yep.
What's your goal with that? Are you wanting to just keep going, or?
I see it as a sideline thing that it's almost an addiction where I can't really get away from it, but I also have a lot of creative energy, so I get bored. Yep. So it's like something I really do like to do, but I don't want to do it all of the time. I just like to do it part of the time.
Yeah.
So I'll probably just always be doing it, but always having, projects or something in my back pocket.
Yeah. Well, that's awesome, man.
Yeah.
So kind of tell me about your journey and how you got started with like real estate, and is this kind of like the path that you always wanted to be on, or like tell me, you're not very old. How old are you now?
I just turned 29 this summer.
29.
Yep.
So kind of where did you see your life going, and then what kind of path did you end up on?
So, I went to school. I'm not a Monett native. I grew up in Aurora and I went to elementary school in Aurora, but I really went to high school and graduated from Webb City, next to Joplin. And then after I graduated, I moved up to Springfield and went to Missouri State. And my degree initially in college was education. So I had a lot of influence from my mom. She was a long time high school, educator and, school administrator. And I saw the impact she had on kids, and I knew I wanted to have a similar impact. So I went to school, got my education degree, and started teaching. I taught at a school up in Springfield called Cherokee Middle School. So it's a very special school, very close to my heart. I really enjoyed my teaching experiences, and really my teaching experiences, I'm grateful for them, even though I'm not teaching anymore, because those were the most formative moments in my life that allowed me to develop the kind of mindset that I do now. Just because I had to sit back and think to myself, I can't be preaching this to these students. I taught 6th grade, and not live up to that my own self. So I knew that I had to be what I was asking them to be, because I wanted them to, be that, that role model for them.
That's really cool. Like, I like that you saw something that you, like, I can't just expect these kids to go out and chase their dreams without pursuing mine. Is that kind of what you're saying?
Yep. Yeah. And they were, it's not a school with a lot of poverty. These kids, they come from good families. They're kids that, I didn't really give out homework, because these kids, they already have homework in the way of they're already doing their extracurricular activities with their soccer and their basketball and their football and their practices, and different, Springfield Little Theater and stuff that they would be involved in. So these are kids that, they're going to, at the end, receive just a really, really well-rounded education, good, solid support systems in their family. So, and I was a lot like that kid growing up. So I related so well to teaching to that school, because so many of those kids reminded me of my own self. I can even think of one. He's a junior. I believe he's the starting quarterback at Glendale.
Oh, wow. And
he's a heck of a football player. He was that same tough kid, but I saw myself in him and many of my other students, and it was a special moment for me in my life, being really young. I think I started teaching when I was 23.
Wow.
But I knew I didn't want to stay in the classroom forever, so I continued my education, went to enrolled in a graduate program, and to get my master's degree in educational leadership. So trying to be on that trajectory of a elementary or middle school principal. And I finished the degree, and that was a great experience. It was my second year teaching, second year into my degree of a 2-year degree program. and I'm sitting on the sideline. So I'm teaching full time. Then I've got my homework and grading papers, and then I'm doing the my master's degree, and writing lots of papers for that. And that was the moment where it was that summer. I'm like, if I don't buy something, like I want this so badly, if I don't buy an investment property, I'm literally going to go crazy. So I didn't know what I was doing, but I was like, I have to start. I have to do something. I have to push my efforts in that direction. And I put out some like wholesaler, like investor, like we buy houses type things, just to like create a book of motivated, cash buyers. And I did that. And
Like
are you
talking about bandit signs or
yes,
something
bandit
else?
signs.
Okay.
Yep. And I did that, and I had I had a few people call me, but one guy, he called me, and he doesn't know this. I don't even think he works at this car dealership anymore, but he called me and he said, I had put one of the signs in his yard, and so we're just like talking, and he tells me how he just got into it, and then he told me how he bought that property that I put that bandit sign in his yard. I was like, huh. And I feel like that was I call those like God moments, where it's just happenstance that it's just like inspirational or inspired thought, and it's just like wisdom that just kind of finds me. And so I took it, and I'm like, huh, that's really interesting. So I went and I did what he said. He bought a property on auction.com. I'm like, you bought a property online? Are you kidding? How sketchy is that? But he did it. So I'm like, I'm going to look into this. Obviously, on some level, it's legit. So I remember I was in my planning period of teaching, and I found a house, and I went and looked at it. On that, you can't always go look at them, but this one I was able to. And it was bank owned, so the bank had already went through the foreclosure process, and now the bank's trying to sell it online. It just keeps hitting auction.com, and nobody's
bidding very much
bidding on it. Yeah, exactly. So it's not meeting the threshold, and I don't think mine even met the threshold, but I was sitting there at in my planning period with the other team of teachers I worked with on my computer, live bidding on this property while I'm working at school. And like my heart's just like pounding, like it's just jumping out at me. And I look back now and it's like, wow, that's so silly. But back then that was a lot.
Yeah.
I think I spent like $33,000 or something on it. I'm like, oh my gosh. So that was really funny. But yeah, that bandit sign, which led to that conversation with that homeowner, which led me to buying a house online, is what led me to my first ever investment property.
Wow.
I didn't know anything about contractors. I didn't know anything about cabinet sizes or putting a kitchen together. I didn't know anything about demo or electric or plumbing, replacing water lines, looking at a roof, inspecting a house. I didn't know nothing. So I look back now, I'm like, man, I was an idiot, truly. But we somehow figured it out. It took about 9 months to do, and the home turned out beautiful, and we still have it to this day, actually. So the second that first one came, and then I'm like, you know what? I want to do this again. So I did. And this next one, it was 2 properties, and oh man, they were bad. They were bad, in really tough shape.
So you bought them like as a package deal?
Mm-hmm. Yep. Okay. And we ended up having to spend like $100,000, $115,000, $120,000 on the renovation of them. But they turned out beautiful. We did most of the work ourselves. It was the first time I ever had to sue a contractor. So that was really fun. They ended up taking about $10,000 from me. And that was a huge
just
punch.
Running or what?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, and non-delivered labor and materials. Yep. And so that was a very expensive lesson that I learned back then. Even now, that's a punch to the gut. I mean, that really hurts. But back then, it like really hurt. And I had a lot of shame over it because I'm kind of the one running the show, trying to make sure that things go right. And how did I miss this? How did I not do my homework? So we just kept moving forward. And then I think we got those done. And then the following year, we just kind of kept building. But going back to how I got started, at that point I had 3 under my belt, and I finished my master's degree, but I was cash flowing part of buying that first property with extra loan money left over from my master's degree.
Yeah.
So it was just like, I was a teacher, bachelor's level, first, second step on the salary schedule. You're only making back then, 37, 38, 39,000. So I wasn't making much money, but I was able to, just backlog all that student loan money. And that's how I got my first one financed. That, and Lowe's was running a special on like 18 months, no interest financing on their Lowe's credit card.
Yeah.
So my investment was all backlogged on a credit card.
Yeah.
And then until I was able to go to the bank and then refinance. I didn't know anything back then about commercial loans, in-house loans versus loans on the secondary market. I mean, I didn't know any of it. So I'm calling up, CNB at the time. It's now Freedom Bank, and talking to them over there, and they're kind of coaching me on some stuff. Debt service coverage, loan to value. I don't know any of this. But so I kept going, and I'm still teaching. I'm in my 3rd year of teaching, and then all of a sudden COVID happens.
Ooh.
And I had just bought a triplex at that point, and I was renovating one of the units. So since I wasn't really teaching much, it gave me some time where I was able to renovate one of the units just by myself. So I went in and I spent my days over there just renovating, since I wasn't teaching. And I had a lot of time alone with my thoughts, and I thought, where I see my life, I see my life outside of this classroom, and I don't want to be limited to the classroom, and the prospects of being a school administrator were less appealing to me at that point, because I was going to continue on to my doctoral studies. I really wanted to be not only a building level principal, I wanted to be a district level superintendent. And I'm like, I'm going to pause for a little bit on my education, and I did. And then COVID gave me even more time to think and reflect, and I did end up leaving. I took a job as a financial advisor for a firm called Morgan Stanley. So I was still working in Springfield, and it was a big risk, but it taught me a lot about finance. But what I learned most from clients in my book of business was listening to their stories. And what really demotivated me to be a financial advisor was, as a financial advisor, I really liked my clients, and I liked listening to their stories. But the whole time I was feeling I'm on the sidelines. I'm not playing. They're talking about the game because they're out playing the game. And here I am on the sideline. And that's not fun. I want to be in the game. I want to play. So I kept doing stuff, different projects. When I was a financial advisor, my dad started building a new commercial building, and I served as the project manager on that to get that, building up and finished. It was a new commercial building in Aurora. And again, I didn't have a single clue about building a commercial building. But we muscled through it somehow, and it turned out great, but it was really hard. So I'm a financial advisor, also building a commercial property at the same time. Also still investing in real estate. I think that year, my first year, 2020, I think I'd still bought like 4 properties.
Wow. That's
so
pretty good.
Then doing those projects. So I was still staying very, very busy.
I want to bring up a few things that you said earlier. So you said to get started, one of the things you had to do was put it on credit cards. Mm-hmm. And that's, to a lot of people, that's like drawing a line, because that just seems way too risky. Mm-hmm. But I mean, I've had to do that as well. And for me, I think it worked out pretty well. Mm-hmm. How were you scared, or were you like, oh, maybe I shouldn't be doing this? Or what was your thought process as you were going through that?
I have always been interested in finance and financial literacy. I ran a financial literacy program in college at Missouri State, And so as far as having a knowledge sense of finances, I'm pretty strong in that. So debt doesn't scare me, or managing both sides of that balance sheet. Some people, and I don't have a tendency to spend. I'm not a frivolous kind of guy. So, kind of like being an alcoholic. If you're around alcohol, someone that is a frivolous spender, like debt would be very bad for them. So, but I'm not like that. So, it scared me in the sense that I knew I had to perform, but it didn't scare me that it was an unreasonable goal. I mean, I'm thinking in my head, if I can't figure this house out in 18 months, then the debt was not the problem. I am the problem, or my inability to figure this out was the problem. And I just need to develop a little more grit and go over there and, learn some of these trades and get this sucker done.
Yeah. Well, that's what, a lot of people need to have that mindset going into something is like, you can everything is figure outable.
Mm-hmm.
And you did that clearly.
Yep.
So are you saying that you did a refinance with the bank after so many months after you finished your project?
Yes. Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
And then did you do it to where you were able to pull money out on top of it, or did you just refinance it and have the loan with the bank?
For cash flow purposes, I think I kept $3,000 of my own money in the deal.
Okay.
So, but then COVID happened 2 years later, and I was able to pull all my money out.
Okay.
So,
and then another point you made is that contractor kind of ripped you off about $10,000.
Mm-hmm.
So what kind of process, like what would you do now? Looking back, had you known what you should have been doing, what would you have done?
I'm not a big contracts guy. I don't like to, just push paperwork back and forth and add extra red tape in the process of construction. I worked harder to just develop better relationships with contractors and develop more trust with contractors. And man, I remember at the beginning, the name contractor was just a sour, dirty word to me. I was just I didn't have a good experience. So I was like, I had to change my mindset and be like, well, what's in it for them? Why should they work with me? What value do I bring to them to help facilitate this process where it's working for me, but it's also very profitable and working for them. They're not a slave to me. I have to see what
you have to create a win-win scenario.
Yep, exactly. So I read a book, I think it was the Burr Method, David Green, and he talked about it and paying quickly, and he had a few other just good things to say about working with contractors. He even, I think, went so far if you got an HVAC bid from someone, he would pay them $50 just to come do the bid.
Yeah.
I started that. I did veer away from that, but I just kind of keep a same group of people that I use on everything. So that I wanted to show that I'm consistent, and showing up for them. I want to pay them quickly. I will pay in ahead on some stuff if I have a relationship with them, or I might pay for I don't know. It's a hunch to me. I don't have a specific process. It's if I feel good about this, I'll do it. But if I don't, I'm not going to do it. But even the people that, if I have to have a contract with you just to make sure that you hold up your end of the deal, you're not the kind of person I want to do business with anyways.
That's a good point. Yeah. There's some contractors I'll do contracts with, and then other ones I have a relationship built up to where we don't really need it.
Yeah.
But I'm into kind of the same as you were saying. I want to build long-term relationships with our contractors.
Mm-hmm.
I don't want you to do one job for me and just part ways. I've had that's happened a few times, but I want to create win-win situations to where they're happy. I keep them busy. They don't have to go out and run all these other jobs for other people and meet new people all the time because they have so much work with us. So that's kind of, then they don't have to advertise. They don't have to, they don't have to worry about a lot of different things if they can focus on getting our stuff done.
Yep.
So I just want to create those win-wins like you.
Yeah, absolutely. And I refer stuff to them, and my contractors now, and I even think that the projects that we do, we execute really well. I go into them with a lot of passion, and a lot of thought put into the projects. So And I think the end product shows that we do a nice job, even if that means going over budget. I'd rather it be right than to be on budget and then just do a half-assed job. But I think that those projects get them more business. So I think that is kind of the marketing element in itself, that we have these really nice projects, and now you can market that work to other people that will want to use you. Yeah. And then if that's one of their goals, to build a team, then like they absolutely can. So contractors was a dirty word. I tried to see what was in it for them, and I shifted my mindset, which helped me out a lot. I was trying to save money with doing everything myself, but I realized that doesn't work, because then I have this project that just is sitting here and that isn't actually getting rented out. So I actually found it to be more profitable to hire someone else, even though it costs more money. It's because then I can get a tenant in there quicker who's paying rent, and then we're all happy. And then I'm at a net gain at that point.
That is the mindset shift that everyone needs to learn. Like, that's the thing that a lot of people get stuck on. It's like, well, I don't want to overpay for this. I want to make sure that if I do it, at least I know it's getting done right, and it's going to be a lot cheaper. But if you can maximize and use other people's skills to accomplish your goals, then I think you're definitely going to be a lot further than if you had to go and do each thing. Plus, think about all the time. Like, a lot of times projects take a long time, so that's a lot more of your time. Whereas if you're good at finding the deal, and you can go out and perform a bunch of deals, and then have a bunch of people working for you, you can you can multiply it over and over again.
Yeah, you can.
Each contractor, whoever you hire, can multiply. If one contractor does 4 jobs a year, and then you hire 2, you can get eight jobs a year done, and then just keep multiplying that out.
Yeah, you can. So I learned that, and I think that was helpful to my growth and building relationships with people and networking. I had to rely on a lot of friends and mentors in my life, even just to get my dad's commercial building done, just because there was so much that I didn't know.
So go into that a little bit more. What was that experience like? I mean, that was your first big project, right?
Yep. So we had been working with an architect. We had done some different site planning and such. We did have to, my family, a couple of years prior, we had to get the whole property rezoned. So that taught me a lot, both about from an urban planning standpoint, but then also got me really interested in what I see now. 3 years later, that was the seed that got planted for being really interested in economic development and how your zoning laws and regulations in your community really do affect whether business, even on a small scale, like this is a one-man business with 3 employees, whether they're going to choose to develop in your town or whether they're not. And so we did have to get pretty nasty with it a little bit, if I'm being frank. We did have a municipal law attorney that even came down and represented us, because we had to really convey why, and it made a lot of sense, not going into too many details because it will bore you, but we did get it rezoned, and so we were able to do the project. So things that I didn't know were, okay, I've never considered elevation. I look at a piece of land and it looks pretty flat to me, but though when you start measuring it by the inch, it's not flat at all. So having to bring in dirt, now how high do you want that building, and what's a monolithic pour, and how big the piers in the ground have to be, and what's the downward pressure of the metal building, and where do you put the rebar in it, and how do you get utilities into the building? I didn't know. I still don't even know. I just have to hire people that do know. Yeah. What's the setup of the water lines, and how are you separating utilities? How are you working with the utility company to have 2 separate meters? So Elite Properties, which is next door to my dad's auto glass shop, they did actually switch the meters, and she has, as a result of this, And so she has like an $1,100 credit from Liberty Utilities because the meters were switched the whole time and she never knew.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So, so that was an interesting one. Some other things that I learned, I had never considered like 2x4 walls, 2x6 walls, sound deadening, R value of spray foam, ordering storefronts.
Man, you're going to convince someone to not do a project.
Those pylon road signs?
So much stuff.
Well, those road signs, the pylon signs by the road,
Yep.
Those things are stupid expensive.
Yep. And they don't need to be, I don't think.
No. One company, and we didn't pay anywhere near this. It was such a laughable quote. It was, I can't even believe they wrote the email, but they wanted like $100,000. Like I'm not paying you $100,000 for this silly little sign.
Oh my gosh, that's insane.
We still end up paying like 25, but yeah.
Dang.
Yeah, they're pricey. You want one out here? Yeah. Roll out that checkbook because you're gonna need it.
But yeah, okay, so what you brought up a lot of different stuff that a lot of our audience is probably gonna go way over their head.
Mm-hmm.
So what would you say, like, if you want to take on a project and you don't know this stuff,
mm-hmm.
is there certain things that you should be studying, or would you just advise find the right people to work for you that know what they're talking about and then just work on the budgeting?
I don't even think you need to find the right people to work for you because you have to have the skills and that competency in your own self to know what to even look for. And at that point, if you don't know, then you don't even know what to look for. You're completely blind to everything.
Yeah.
What I had good people around me that I could rely on, that I would consider myself, I would consider them my mentor, and that I fielded a lot of questions off of them. And that was the most important part for me. Getting involved, just like starting, and then figuring it out with the resources and the networking and the people around me. Talking about my problems and to my friends and colleagues, and they helped me solve it. So,
wow.
Yeah, it wasn't like reading books or anything. It was talking to people. Who's in my network? How can I talk to them? I have this problem. Help me solve this.
Yep.
And they did. So that was pretty cool.
That is cool.
So we built the building. We got it up. It looks nice. I think we did it in like 9 or 10 months.
That's pretty quick for a project like that.
Yeah. Then, so I was still a financial advisor, and this was 2021. I think so. No, 2022. I don't know. At this point, it runs together for me.
Dude, I'm the same way.
I think it was 2022 is when we finished the project because I was on my way out as a financial advisor. We delegated off my book of business. I was sitting at the point where I had 10 unfinished projects, and I'd hired a life coach at that point just to help me find value and a passion for what I was doing as a financial advisor, and then balancing that with these other projects I had going on. And that was the only solution I could come to when kind of managing my own happiness. Was it was really hard for me to sit in an office and be having to make these really like key critical high level decisions for other people, and the market was fluctuating a lot during COVID, and having to manage other people's emotions when I can hardly manage my own, because at that point I'm dealing with a lot of money, and it's not even mine, it's my dad's money. Then I have to make sure his project goes well, but then I have to manage the emotions of my clients. But then I also have 10 unfinished projects of my own over here on the side. And, my contractors are calling me, and, I'm half listening because I don't know what they're talking about. And in the moment, I quite frankly just don't care because I'm trying to do something else. And so I could tell in that moment, like, I wasn't serving anyone well. So I said, you know what? It's time that I find a path for my clients to have a really strong financial advisor that will give them excellent service. And I need to button up some things on my own personal business end. So we did. And in those it was like 5 or 6 months of last year, we finished, I think, 10 renovations.
Oh, wow.
They were all partially done, and me being more on site and more hands-on and more available for people, we just plowed through them, and that was really awesome.
Did you enjoy it a lot better
Yeah.
since you kind of left the role of being a financial advisor?
Yes, I did. So I think that I think there's two things that have always been in my heart, and it's teaching and learning, both like being taught, so learning my own self, just being a lifelong learner, having very much a growth mindset. It was just some of the things I would share with my students to have, and always like to have just an unsatiable desire to want to learn. But then also being one to teach and to coach and to mentor others, and how much satisfaction I get out of that. So everything that I do, I look at it as teaching and learning. In my role as the executive director down there at the Chamber of Commerce, I'm still just a teacher. I teach people, and then I learn my own stuff because I'm not an expert. So I felt like that in the role, even with dealing with contractors and with real estate. It was all about teaching and learning. I learned a ton. My contractors teach me all kinds of things every day, but then I'm able to kind of coach them, on different processes or different things that I've kind of thought of that help make the project go more seamless.
Yep.
So we finished those 10, and I was really ramping up on my co-workspace project, which is something that I had been in the works for, at this point, over a year and a half, when it kind of came to fruition. See, I have friends. I have one friend, and her and I can't hardly go to lunch together, because if we do, we are too much the same. So what will happen is our ideas bounce off of one another, and then it almost like gets me in trouble, because then I'm super hyped, and then it leads to another project, which is really awesome. So that's how my co-workspace thing came to fruition, is I just shared, hey, I would really like to do this co-workspace thing. And she said, well, let's start looking. And we did, and we just never looked back. Wow. But I still don't even know. But I just kind of like followed the process, and the right people and the right resources and the things showed up at the right times that helped me progress the project, which is truly amazing. I mean, it's happenstance. It's a God moment. It's inspired thought. It's the universe, coming and serving you, to whatever you need. It's truly wild.
So you're big into say yes and then figure it out later.
Yep, I am.
That's how I've done pretty much every business that I've been in, or every project is just, okay, how can we do this? And then we just kind of figure it out and ask the right questions, meet the right people, and just go along the way. And I mean, sometimes it kind of sucks because it doesn't go exactly how you want, or it'll go over budget or whatever. But ultimately, if you keep doing that over and over, I think in the long run it'll pay off. Yeah.
It makes you more of a high value person. You have so many more experiences and so much more experience to kind of lean on, in future projects.
Yeah, I started thinking more of like, you want to be the main character in a book. Mm-hmm. You don't want to just be someone on the sidelines that's not doing much interesting, like a non-playable character or whatever. Mm-hmm. You want to be the one in the action, you want to be able to write an amazing book just by how you live your life. Yep. You don't want to just live a normal, boring life.
Yeah, exactly. Yep. And the financial industry, their regulations, they're tracking down on even more with social media, and just how you can share and spread your message, and how that message gets regulated. And it really takes the humanity out of like just good connection, even online. So this is a podcast and it's online, but as a financial advisor, I wouldn't be able to do those things. So everything that I would ever post would have to be, filtered. And,
so you feel like you kind of got your freedom back after you left that?
Absolutely. Yep. My freedom back, my voice back, my ability to influence and serve and teach others back once I left.
And I think that aligns a lot better with your personality.
Yeah, absolutely. And I come from the mindset with being a financial advisor that I would find more value in teaching you how to manage your money rather than me managing your money for you.
Oh yeah, like teach someone to fish rather than fish for them, basically.
Yeah. So exactly. So then in this journey, I had quit being a financial advisor. Then we finished 10 renovation projects, and some were really bad. Flea infestations.
Termites?
No termites. Well, yeah, we did have some termites on some projects, but we didn't have to do any damage. We were able to mitigate early on.
Yeah.
We had to one house. We replaced every single floor joist and the sill plate around the foundation of the whole house.
Oh, that's fun. We've had one of those.
Yeah, that was tough.
Yeah.
Had to fire
Go ahead. Sorry.
had to fire a siding crew because they were horrible.
Was it coming off? Was the siding falling off?
I don't even remember what was wrong. Everything was wrong. Whatever you can imagine with, it was horizontal Dutch lap, and, they didn't even match up, on one side of the door versus the other, and there were gaps, and it was just all bad. Their soffit and their fascia looked horrible too. I guess I had to fire a couple contractors.
It's kind of funny, like, looking back, like there's a lot of like similarities in our story of like things we've gone through, like being real estate investors. Like there's a lot of crap that goes on. Mm-hmm. You have to figure out, okay, like, and it's hard, at least for me, it was hard to get thicker skin and being able to fire someone because they're not performing well. Mm-hmm. Like you feel bad for them because, it's still a person, they have feelings, but at the same time you have to get your projects done. Mm-hmm. And you have to look out for yourself as well. So you kind of have to have some type of balance.
Yeah, you do. Absolutely. Yeah. So we started kind of working at it was December 2022, January 2023. Finally got my plans and my building permit to start my commercial project downtown in Monett, my co-work space project. And, we hit the ground running on that, and we'd already demoed it out, so we were a little bit ahead of the game. And we're still getting there. It's still a progress, but that's kind of what led me here. I started and even to Monett, because I was living in Springfield. I'd lived in Springfield for my adult life, most of it, and I never thought I would live in Monett or even work in Monett, but I just started investing here, and I just have kind of stuck around. I was serving, prior to being the executive director, I was serving on the board of directors for our Chamber of Commerce. And so one of the projects that I did while serving was we changed our logo and we changed the name of our chamber, which was pretty big. We hired a marketing company to help us with that and to launch a new initiative called Why Monett, which is kind of a talent attraction play. So we did that. We changed our colors of our chamber so that we're not aligning with Monett schools, but we can be more inclusive and think more regionally to invite other communities to engage with us.
That sounds like it was a pretty smart move.
Yeah.
Because it's Monett area. It's not just Monett, right?
Yep, correct. So we're the Monett area chamber now, and I wish that I could take credit back then for, like, when we made the change, having all that forethought of, oh yeah, we're going to do this, and it sounds really smart. It just kind of like happened, and I was like, oh wow, that was a good idea. I'm glad we did that. I wasn't really thinking through it that well, that deeply, but it ended up being a pretty smart move for our chamber. Our executive director had left to go do economic development work as the CEO for a neighboring community. And when that job came open, I'm like, oh man, I really feel like the kind of guy that they need. Someone young, someone with fresh ideas. I've sat at this table. I've heard the sentiment of what I feel this board and other community members feel about our Chamber of Commerce, and I'm thinking in my head, I think I might need to be sitting in that seat. And I was scared because I already had other things going on that take up enough of my time. But I said, you know what? This is a moment to develop and hone in on my leadership and what that looks like. And so I threw my name in the hat, and I ended up getting it, and that kind of tied me down here to Monett even more. And I've just tried to learn as much as I can. And It does get hard at times, because I do have, portfolio of properties. We're changing over tenants even actively. Airbnbs. Oh yeah, and last year I put into service 3 Airbnbs. Started out with not having a single clue about how to do any of it.
Yeah. So how are you liking those?
I'm pessimistic about it because there's so much more communication and notifications that come through on my phone. Good customer service, so I do a good job, and it's not the guest's fault that I feel this way.
You're also super host though, right? Too.
Mm-hmm. Yep. So I do the best job that I can to serve guests and give them a good experience, make sure their home is clean and whatnot. But it's just a lot of notifications, and when I already have so many other things on my plate and other things on my mind, that's the last thing that I want to. You messaging me, and it's not your fault, but you messaging me telling me that you got in and check-in was successful. I'm like, it makes me kind of like get pessimistic about the whole thing. Like, oh, another notification. And here's the thing. If you message me, it's not just one notification. It's a app notification. It's a text message notification, and it's an email notification. When you're about to check in, 8 days when you check in, when you check out, and then if you leave a review, oh yeah. And that's just one guest. And that doesn't even include correspondence. If you directly ask me a question, that's a whole nother. So I get a lot of notifications.
Yeah. I'm kind of getting there too not necessarily Airbnb, but just with all the stuff I have going on. Mm-hmm. It's like, it's getting to be overwhelming. Like I'm getting a lot more emails now, a lot more, opportunities, which is good, but I'm getting to the point where I'm getting closer to needing an assistant, which is good. Mm-hmm. But at the same time, it's like, do I really want to spend the money on an assistant if some weeks are busier than others and I might not need them a whole lot? Yeah. Same like that.
Yeah, I agree.
And then same with, I want to hire an in-house property manager pretty soon for our rentals, but I'm not to the point where, like right now we have 9 rentals. Mm-hmm. And so it doesn't really make sense for 9 rentals. Yeah. So my problem really is that I just need to grow faster. Like I need to get bigger to where it makes sense to hire these people, and then my life will get easier. So that's kind of a motivating factor for me to grow.
Yeah. And I see it a similar way. If you can start doing, making decisions at scale, it lowers the cost of everything. Yeah. So that landed me here. Director, working on a co-work space, managing some Airbnbs, managing some rental properties. And at this point, we've got, in the real estate asset classes, of the 20 we've done, we've got commercial, mixed use, single family home, multifamily, and small multifamily.
So you've basically done like
almost every asset class.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. So which one's your favorite so far?
A favorite in regards to what?
Well, like, I don't know. I guess some of them will produce better income, but they might be a bigger pain to manage. Like an Airbnb might perform better income-wise, but if it creates a lot more headache for you, is it really worth it? Probably not. So, like, is there one that you feel like overall it's like the best asset class that you want to keep buying and growing?
I would say I like. I don't have a specific preference. I like things that are renovated and new. Yeah. So if I've renovated it already and I know that the water lines are good and, I'm not going to have like leaks or these surprise things, building something new or doing a big renovation like we are downtown, and I'm not going to have issues with this in the future because I know that I had control over the process and we did things right and we didn't cut corners and cheap out, then I like doing those things. Mm-hmm. Yeah. But property that if I didn't place the tenant or I haven't renovated it, those are the ones I have more trouble with because I don't know what's behind the walls. I'm not familiar with if you've had problems with that HVAC or not. And I don't want to displace families from their housing accommodations, but I also don't want to go into a property and cause undue stress on the tenant, and having to do drywall work or stuff like that. If it gets too severe, then the best thing to do is to ask them to leave and give them that notice, just so you can make those renovations, because at that point it's not fair to them. But then if I have to go in and make those renovations, then the property sits vacant. So I would say ones that I placed the tenant and I renovated it. Those are my favorite ones, regardless of whether it's commercial or residential.
Okay. So is that what you're looking to kind of scale, is focus on those and just keep doing more of them? Or are you...
Yeah. I would say that building development would probably be a pretty big need. We launched a economic development task force, a real estate development task force specifically in our Chamber of Commerce that focuses on real estate, and we've branded it as called Monett Builds. And we ran some data from that, and we have just in Monett City proper, we have 415 job openings, and the housing, even though our local industry relies on housing from Purdy, Pierce City, Mount Vernon, Aurora, Verona, we still are not anywhere close to fulfilling that need. We have so many people that are trying to move into town that they can't because they physically don't have a house. We have too many jobs. And that 415 open job openings here in town is probably underrepresented in the amount of jobs that we're trying to bring into town. So we need a lot of housing. So at some point you just have to build it. Right. So right now I'm probably more of my energy is looking into that, and how can we be more innovative with our city codes and leveraging, the variance option for making sure that we get more multifamily and small multifamily in town, networking with those developers and our local real estate investors that can actually bring that housing to town. The median income, household income of Monett is only $49,000. So no, they cannot, if you build a new, $200,000 house, no, they can't afford, they're not going to qualify to buy a $200,000 house. You have to get someone else to move that will move into that $200,000 house that maybe has a little built up equity if they're only making $50K for this new family to buy their old house. And with interest rates where they are, we have to be more creative with how we address the housing needs in town.
I agree. What would you say is the sweet spot for Monett if you are around a median of $50,000 a year?
I see an increasing number of people that are single or maybe they're married and no kids. Maybe married and one kid, you can include that too. I know that a 3-bed, 2-bath home is kind of the standard. I would like to see more 2-bedroom homes. How can we bring down the cost of the home by actually making the home smaller? If you're single or if you're married, there's no need for you to have a 3-bed, 2-bath house and you're paying a $1,500 mortgage. There's a way cheaper way to get into a house.
Yeah.
So I would say that.
But what dollar amount would you say is probably ideal?
The 150 to 175.
Yeah, that's kind of what I was thinking.
Yep.
So what you've done a lot of things in your life. What's one of the best lessons that you've learned in life?
That you need people on your team. You have to build your team. You have to invest in others. You and I, we're real estate investors, but really at the end of the day, we don't invest in real estate. We invest in people. If you don't have the people to do the real estate, that have the skills and that knowledge that you can lean on, you're not moving your community forward. You're not getting better. You need them. You need them and they need you. And so investing in relationships with people, going back to saying yes and then just figuring it out later, kind of living by that motto. Again, if I didn't have the people around me that I can rely on to give me good advice and advice that there's no benefit to them. They're only just helping me. If I didn't have that and nurture those relationships, I find that extremely important. So that is the best lesson for me. Chamber of Commerce, serving a membership of 300 members. It's all about building relationships, getting to know people. What are your pain points in your business? But then I can go to them if I have personal goals, and I can say, hey man, like so and so, I have this issue. Like, tell me. I think you could probably help me. Tell me, this is what I've got going on. Like, what do you think about it? So I think it's very mutual and reciprocal. So I just try to invest in other people and be thoughtful and mindful of them and how I treat them and how I react to them. So yeah.
I love that. That's probably one of the best answers I've heard. So I really feel like that's a great piece of advice, and I want people to really reflect on what you said, because I mean it's a game changer for sure.
Yeah. In business, if you don't have relationships and know good people, you can't do it all yourself. I would really like to think, and I probably used to when I was younger, like, oh, I can do this all myself. No, you can't. No, you can't. You have to have people on your team. So going to lunches and going to coffees and meeting them, even like I'm meeting you and talking to you and sharing on this podcast, those moments I think are so critical. The moments of connection. COVID got us to where people were working from home a lot. And that's the whole thing with the co-work space is people need moments of connection. You need to connect with others and network with others and be around others. Even if you're more introverted, you don't have to be in a big group of people, but meaningful human connection is extremely important to our quality of life. Our quality of life, but also our success, in business. So
what does believe in yourself mean to you? I mean, you're actively doing all these different things. You're really successful, especially at such a young age. Believe in yourself to me means like no matter what, even when the odds are against you, you have to believe in yourself and push forward and go through all these barriers because you have dreams and goals you want to hit. Mm-hmm. So what does believe in yourself mean to you?
When you say the word believe in yourself, the first thing I think of is I believe it comes from, it's like a history lesson, comes from Alexander the Great's time. Potentially, don't quote me on that, but it starts with burn the ships. And the story goes that these soldiers, or whomever they were going and they were wanting to invade some island or something. And their commander person told them, when they got on there, they're going to get onto the island and they're going to burn their ships. Like, there's no going back. You have to win. It's not that you're going to accept defeat and then, you're going to get back on the ship and go back to your homeland. Burn the ships. So believing yourself means burn the ships to me. That there's, we can tell ourselves, we believe in ourselves as just this, just this term that we all just throw up in the air. But what does it really mean to believe in yourself? Are you willing to know failure? Are you willing to know embarrassment? Are you willing to how willing are you to put it on the line to believe in yourself? And, I look at it from, I was talking to a pastor. He serves on our board of directors, and I was talking to him a few months back, and I said, I really push this whole idea about believing in yourself to being a person of faith. How can a person, we have a lot of, Christian, both Protestant and Catholic in this area. And so we were speaking from the Christian framework, and we said, how can someone have so much faith in God, but then not have faith in themselves? How can you go to church every Sunday and say, oh, wow, I have so much faith in God, but man, I'm really don't have enough faith in myself to even start this business venture. Or I'm not willing to be embarrassed, or I'm just not willing to look stupid, or I'm not willing to take a risk. I'm not willing to fail. And I say, well, hey, maybe you just don't have as much faith as you think, because, that's my mindset. If I really want it, then what am I going to do to get it? And that means no failure. That means whatever I have to do, whatever I have to sacrifice, I'm going to do it. And what I tell myself is it's going to happen with being a financial advisor and quitting my W-2 job to go off and pursue real estate full time, that was burning the ships. There's no income coming in. I have to figure this out. The co-work space has to come to fruition. The idea has to work. So I need to be really in tune with my actions and with my budget and make sure that I'm nailing down these projects and executing like I need to be. So that is what believe in yourself means to me, that I have to perform, and I owe it to myself, and I owe it to the people that believe in me as well. Yeah. We're talking about, the question is, what does believe in yourself? But you could also ask, what does it mean for others to believe in me? And what that tells me is I owe it to them. I owe it to my sphere of people around me to perform at my highest ability and to reach my potential, because they wouldn't invest in me as being mentors and sharing this candid advice with me if they didn't care and if they didn't want to see me succeed. So
you kind of feel like you owe it to them to do your best.
Yep.
Because you don't want to let them down.
Yep. And I owe it to myself to have faith in myself, to be a man of faith, have a strong relationship with God, and all that comes out in me. It just kind of manifests through me in the way of entrepreneurship and then teaching and learning. So,
do you believe that there's failure? Like, do you believe that failure is just a lesson, or how do you see failure?
Sometimes failure, what I've seen with failure, because I'll fail at small things, like, darn, I didn't cut that piece of flooring right or something. What failure tells me oftentimes is that I wasn't on the right path. If things aren't happening spontaneously and they don't really seem to like be in sync, we have to work hard, but I think that if a person's on the right path, there's a state of flow that just happens in that process. The person being very engaged is something they're passionate about, but then also, and they'll have setbacks and barriers, but they can overcome them, and there's just a state of flow, and like they keep moving forward with it. So, failure to me tells me that I'm not on the right path, and that I probably need to like step back, reflect, and maybe make sure that this aligns with like my values, and then what aligns with who I am supposed to be, and kind of like what my life mission is, my life purpose.
That makes sense. Yeah. I agree with you on some of it, but I also feel like there's no one is great whenever they're first starting out at doing something. Mm-hmm. But also, if things just like, if you keep hitting roadblock after roadblock after roadblock, when do you stop, right? You're kind of, I know it sounds mean, but you're kind of a moron if you keep doing something that you're clearly not very good at and trying to pursue that. Yeah. But at the same time, you need to persist, and life tends to hit you in the face in the beginning whenever, no one was perfect at something when they first started. Mm-hmm. So, but yes, I agree with you. Yeah. What legacy do you want to leave?
None of this is, I think it's about me in the sense that I want to reach my potential, but a lot of it isn't about me. It goes back to, I was talking to one of my former students, one of their parents, and he was kind of a troublemaker, if you will. I had a lot of boys in my classes, and he'd give his other teachers a hard time, but he was always really respectful to me. And so I knew that he was the kind of kid, his teachers aren't calling out and, complimenting his behavior in school. So I wanted to make that effort. And he mowed lawns. He owned a lawn care business. And he was definitely, I think he came into parent-teacher conferences with some overalls. So he's just kind of like this rough, gruff guy, and what I'm perceiving. But he, on that phone call, got so soft-hearted and tender, and said some of the kindest things. I was blown away. It made me emotional, honestly. And I called my dad afterwards, and I'm talking to him, just kind of like decompressing the moment. And he said, Brett, these aren't the exact words, but he goes, Brett, I'm not just excited to see, where you'll go in life and how high you'll go. He said, what I'm really excited to see is like who you'll bring up with you. And this was like 5 years ago. So, and the words have still stuck with me. So it was pretty impactful. So when I think about the legacy, my legacy is I want it to be how many people will I bring up with me? More about creating influence, creating impact. I'm not a frivolous guy, so money doesn't mean much to me. Besides, I'm able to maybe leverage more of it to do bigger projects, to create more impact that can be more transformational. What I see with legacy, serving a chamber of commerce, is how can we get more chamber memberships? How can we get more business? How can we help businesses grow? And what role can I serve in that? So I think that my legacy is about lifting others up. I think I get a lot of satisfaction out of that.
Well, that's really neat. Yeah, there's sometimes I feel like there's just moments in your life when people really pour into you and just speak life into you whenever, like sometimes I'll just be down about something and then I'll just randomly get this really nice call or compliment, and it just lifts me right back up and really helps me with like my mindset again.
Mm-hmm.
It's like maybe I am really making a difference and doing the things that I really want to do in my life.
Yeah.
So
yeah,
that's
absolutely.
really neat. So are you and your dad pretty close, or have you always been pretty close?
Yeah, we're pretty close. My whole family is pretty close. Even cousins, aunts, uncles. Yeah. We're all pretty close.
That's cool.
So we spent the whole weekend at the lake together, even just this last weekend.
Nice. I bet that was a lot of fun.
Yeah, it was. Yeah.
So what is a few of your goals, or what are some of the things that you're working on, like maybe short-term or long-term?
So I would say something, all my short-term goals are not compelling at all. They're really like random, silly things. I would say an intermediate term goal would be that I've started a business. Starting a business. I'm still in the process. I have helped grow a business and expand a business and improve a business with my dad's operations. And I've, done some different projects with real estate, but I've never purchased a business. So what does that look like? I would like to hone in on purchasing a business would be my next goal. How can I buy something that already produces cash flow and that I don't have to think and reimagine every single element of the entire, system to make it work? So.
Well, that's cool. Is the reasoning because you feel like you've done pretty much all these different things in real estate? Like you've kind of invested in, multifamily, single family, Airbnbs, and you just kind of want to try each thing? Is that the reasoning behind it, or what's your reasoning?
Maybe a little bit, like it's never enough. I enjoy the challenge. So I'll get bored with something and want to just continue expanding my knowledge, my skill sets. And I do on some level enjoy taking an organization and improving it, asking really tough questions about trying to get granular with what the fundamentals of the business are, and then taking steps to improve personnel, expand, improve operations, improve customer service, whatever it is. So I think that's exciting, and I think buying a business like that, it's always a value add opportunity. How can I take this business and then how can I create it into my own form and adapt it to what I see, as the 21st century?
Yep. Do you have any ideas on what type of businesses you would be interested in?
No, not necessarily. I'm going to start out small. Something with cash flow. I follow a girl on TikTok. Don't ask me her name. It's Cody, actually. Cody
Sanchez?
Yes.
Yeah.
Cody Sanchez.
She's really good at it.
Oh, she's fire. I love her
good.
content.
Yeah.
And she talks about buying boring businesses. And so I just love listening to her. And we were talking about off air earlier. We were talking about Marcus Lemonis.
Yeah.
Also love him. I don't follow her on TikTok, but yeah, Cody, she's good. Yeah, she's the one that got me on that boring businesses thing.
Yeah, I mean, I think she's on the right path.
Mm-hmm.
So, like laundromats seemed like a good business to be in.
Yeah.
Just simple stuff, car washes,
Mm-hmm.
just easy operation, like not maybe too much to it, but they're good cash flow producing assets.
I have to, in the business, I have to think, if we were shorthanded, am I going to take like a laundromat or like a dry cleaners, if we were shorthanded, I don't even like folding my own clothes. So I have to ask myself, am I willing to fold other people's clothes? I don't even iron myself. So I just buy clothes that don't need to be ironed. So yeah, I have to like see myself. Do I see myself working in this business? Yeah. A restaurant's probably not the best one just because I'm thinking I don't even like cooking. So
I really have no interest in owning a restaurant business.
Yeah. So, but something service-based probably.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah.
So what is one of your favorite books, or if maybe you have a few business books that you really enjoyed or had a big impact on your life?
I would say I know what my answer was. It was originally going to be The Go-Giver, but then there was one book that I really liked, and it was I read it back in college. So The Go-Giver, it's I think you've read it, and it's all about creating, giving out more, as a way to you give out, you give to other people, and then the law of reciprocity or the law of income or whatever they say it is, will give back to you. But the next book that I really like that I just thought of is similar in that role, and it's called The Tools. It says 5 tools to help you find courage, creativity, and willpower and inspire you to live life in forward motion. So it's Phil Stutz and then Barry Michaels. And that book was super. So I believe they're 2 psychotherapists, and they come at it from a point of view of psychology, and they talk about similarly what the Go-Giver does when if you can't give from an empty cup was one of their analogies in the book. So your cup needs to be like flowing over before you can ever even think about giving to others. You can't even have a half-filled cup. So that was a really good book that I've taken some of those lessons and applied them to my life. The other one, probably, and I read it in 2017. Truly, it did change my life. It's called The Secret.
Oh, yeah.
Yep. The Law of Attraction. Studying that. No holdbacks. That is number one. The study of the Law of Attraction. Your thoughts become things. What you think about, you become. And understanding energy and universal energy and how that works. And then how that relates back to our faith was really impactful for me.
So to me, that was the hard thing about The Secret is I believe there's truth with the law of attraction, but I didn't know how to tie it into like God because I believe that we have a creator and everything. Mm-hmm. So I guess the way I see it now is that God created the law of attraction, and it's a law just like gravity and just like all these other things. And that once I had that mind shift to realize that, it was like a game changer. Yeah. Because I always worry, like, I feel like this is really something that's true, but I just don't know how to tie it together. So,
yeah. I mean, everything's energy. The thoughts that we're thinking right now have energy on a scientific level. You can actually measure the frequency of a thought. Yeah. And there is a radius, a diameter around your head at which you can measure. I think it's about 8 feet, actually, that you can measure a thought. So, yeah, that was everything's energy. We're not like these giant blobs walking around, of meat, that we are just energy on a very high frequency. So we need to be mindful about what we think, how we think, and really hone in on that mindset thing.
Yeah. And that kind of ties into what you were saying earlier about how if things aren't naturally flowing, then I kind of feel like that ties in there to where if things aren't going very well, then maybe, you should be looking at something else, because if you have it set as a goal and you're trying to make it happen, then why isn't it happening? I have these belief systems that I can do it.
Mm-hmm.
And
Yeah. I mean, obviously, if that's the case, then the person has some sort of incongruency in their life, whether they've got negative thoughts or it's not their life path, it's not playing to their strengths somehow. People are perceiving them differently. They're being than what they believe they're being perceived. There's a lot of factors.
So how can people connect with you? Do you have Facebook or?
Yeah, I have Facebook, and I'm on Instagram, and I have TikTok, but I don't post that much. And then they can also find me at the Monett Area Chamber of Commerce. We stay pretty active there. And so Facebook, Instagram, I think my handle, Twitter, I have a Twitter. So I like to post kind of and retweet thought leadership type things there.
Like inspirational stuff, basically.
Mm-hmm, yeah.
So what are you doing all this stuff for? Like you have Airbnbs, you have all these real estate investments, you have all these really cool projects that you're working on.
Mm-hmm.
What is the reason behind you pursuing all this?
I think the reason behind me pursuing it is the exact same reason that I want to buy a business, and it's the exact same reason why I want to believe in myself, in the term, burn the ships and really just go all in. The exact same reason why I want to reach my potential. The exact same reason I'm in Monett. The exact same reason I'm at the Chamber of Commerce. The exact same reason I'm passionate about teaching and learning. I really enjoy. What it's for is intrinsically what I enjoy, and my reason for being in Monett is because I see Monett, and I'm betting on Monett as a community that has a ton of potential, and I have to just facilitate and unlock the right keys, and facilitate the right conversations to just explode. When I got into the job early on, they asked me, are you afraid to fail? I said, no, I'll be honest, I'm not. What I'm afraid is that this is going to blow up so much that I'm actually going to become overwhelmed, and it's going to present a whole new set of problems for me.
That's an awesome way to think of it.
Yeah. And I see Monett in that same way. So intrinsically, that's what I want. I want to take a community that I am betting on. When you look at, the demographics of, there's so much opportunity here to really make something explode. And I want to be a part of that, and I want to share in that success when it does happen. But then what's it all for? It is for the people around me that believe in me. It's for people that don't believe in me. It's for the haters out there, it is what it is. It's for my family, for my future spouse, for my future kids. It's just a devotion to my craft and to this discipline that I engage in every day, of whether it be teaching and learning or whether it be real estate, that I owe it. I owe the professionalism to other people that have kind of come before me, and of books that I've read, to just continue filling up the pot of knowledge to keep things moving forward. And then, I started with this, but again, I owe it to myself. I owe it to my values. I owe it to, the teachers and all the people that are maybe not in my life now and around my circle now, but they poured into me at a really young age. And, yeah, that's what I do it all for.
That's really neat.
Yeah.
I really like that. Do you have a final message for our audience?
I'll end with a similar sentiment of what I just shared, that we owe it to people, to the people that invest in us and pour in us. We owe it to them to try our best to live honestly, to live authentically, to show up for people, to show up for others, much like others have certainly showed up for me, certainly showed up for you, to invest in others, to lift others up, to be a message that is positive. And it's always a work in progress, certainly, because I do get frustrated about things. But yeah, we owe it to other people, because I sit here and, in your words, you mentioned successful at a young age, but I got to be honest, the way I see it is I'm just the manifestation of like other people that have believed in me, that in a lot of ways, I didn't do a lot of the work. I mean, I was engaged in the process, but it was all those other people that poured into me that allowed me to even have the knowledge or have the opportunity that I did to even make that thing happen. So I feel really blessed that I was able to do it, but there's certainly more work to be done. And I want to give back to other people. So kind of like how I saw my sixth graders, who are now my first class that I ever taught. They're seniors at Kickapoo High School.
Oh, wow. That's crazy.
Yeah. How, so many of them reminded me of my own self. So how can I, as a leader, as a community leader, as an entrepreneur, how can I find someone like the next Brett or the next Jason or the next whoever and be like, you know what, there's just something special about that guy or that girl, and I'm just going to like invest in them. I'll tell you, our Chamber of Commerce, our board of directors, they're so much like that. Since I am pretty young in the role, and a lot of our board of directors are very well seasoned, successful business leaders in town, how much they pour into me, and we'll go out to coffees and lunches, and how much the sage advice they give me and perspective and mentorship. I think that's pretty cool.
It is. A lot of people talk about how a self-made person isn't really self-made. It's just a lot of people poured into them and made them who they are.
Yep, exactly. You hit the nail on the head. That's how I feel.
Yep. Well, thank you guys for watching the Karima podcast. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and have a great day. God bless you guys.